Alright, I am back with a Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty video. At long last, I can talk about this. I've previously talked about Update 2.0, but now the embargo has lifted for the expansion itself. I am recording this about an hour before that happens. By now, you may have seen my review, which is a 10 out of 10. I have been so excited to talk about the expansion because I goddamn loved it. My history with Cyberpunk, you may have seen over the, 150 articles I've written about it. It went from the excruciatingly bad launch, in which I was kind of actively mad at CDPR for being very shady at launch, where they only gave reviewers PC copies, which were much better than the console copies, and so we all reviewed it on PC, which was a lot better, so we gave it higher scores, and then it came out on console, and it was a disaster, so everyone got mad at us, in addition to CDPR. And CDPR essentially lied about it. They said that it ran fine, or ran surprisingly well on last-gen platforms, when it was barely functional, and Sony removed it from the store. They have spent 3 years, almost 3 years, trying to make amends for this. At first, it was like a year, essentially, just of constant bug fixes, thousands and thousands and thousands of bug fixes, performance improvements, visual improvements, and then eventually they kind of started adding new things here and there, a couple of gigs, a couple of new weapons, new cars. This is the free DLC they promised, which was delayed, forever. And then they, towards the end here, they started redoing some of the systems, like, okay, we have a new throwing knife system where the knives recharge, and all of this was in service of leading up to Update 2.0, the biggest rework of the entire game you've ever seen, and Phantom Liberty, the actual expansion. They have sunk more money, at least, into this than any of their expansions, which include the very famous Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine expansions from The Witcher. That's kind of the gold standard for expansion / DLC in a game, and I know they wanted to make something that was on par with that for Cyberpunk. They did. I would certainly think that this is on par with something like Blood and Wine. I don't know if it's as long, per se. Like, it took me about, I would say, 16, 17 hours to beat it on a character. I beat it on 2 characters. I'm almost done with my 3rd character. But that's with, some exploration, doing side quests and stuff. If you just blitz the main quest and, like, instead of exploring, you just skip time and waited for people to call you and just went into the main missions, it's a lot shorter. But I would highly recommend doing all the side missions, exploring Dogtown, all of this stuff, to really get the most out of it. And as you can see, after 2.5 playthroughs, I am still very engaged with it. Over time, I have been of the philosophy that, yes, CDPR has improved Cyberpunk, where it is definitely worth playing, even before this, even before the 2.0 update, given how much was fixed, given that there was a very good game hiding under the surface of all of these technical problems and performance issues. No, not every single aspect of the game, was great, and it was still missing some stuff that felt like it should be standard. Car chases, police chases, which are now in the game. I had some issues with the main storyline, so and so and so, but now Phantom Liberty is kind of the culmination of the redemption arc for Cyberpunk, and I think it's the perfect note to end the game on, and we know they are going to make a Cyberpunk sequel. It's probably very far away, but this game did sell a bazillion copies despite its initial issues, and I think the more people have gone back to it or decided to play it for the first time over time, the more people are like, hell yeah, Cyberpunk, and it's become, even though we're still saying, like, you don't want to pull a Cyberpunk at launch, what the actual game has become, and now what it fully is with Phantom Liberty, is very excellent, is really excellent. With my 10 out of 10, I am not saying that I'm bringing the score of the entire game up to a 10 out of 10. Did I even score the game in the first? I don't even remember, but I can't say that necessarily, but I am just reviewing the expansion as an expansion, and this is a 10 out of 10 expansion. I am including the Update 2.0 stuff as part of this. It's impossible not to, because everything you're playing in Dogtown, playing in Phantom Liberty, uses all these new systems that are launching, within 4 days. It launches tomorrow, the expansion launches on the 26th. You can't extract the two, because you need to talk about how the game plays, and that's essential with 2.0, even though the 2.0 system is throughout the entire game, and if you're starting over from scratch, which you probably should, you're experiencing all of the 2.0 stuff from moment 1. I'll get into 2.0 stuff later, but because I've already talked about that to a certain extent, the expansion itself. This is a better main storyline than the main storyline of the base game. I've always said that Cyberpunk really thrived during its more elaborate side quests. Usually those are the main 4, involving the 4 biggest companions of the game: Carrie, Judy, Panam, and River. Especially everybody loves the Judy and Panam quests. And here your pal is Idris Elba, who is a government secret agent, and you are tasked with finding Songbird, a netrunner who contacts you through your relic somehow, because she's that good of a netrunner, and recruits you to help save the president, who has crash landed in Dogtown. Dogtown is a walled off part of Night City. I'm not really sure how they just sort of planted it in there, and it is run by Kurt Hansen, a ex-military, ex-militech person who is now a warlord who just controls this whole district. And he wants to get his hands on the president, so you are supposed to save her. The story is not about saving the president. You save the president in the intro mission. Like, that's not... I don't think that's a spoiler. It's just... That's how it opens. And, like, you're not spending the whole game trying to make your way to the president. It's not Escape from New York. Rather, the main storyline is involved with Songbird. So Songbird helps you at first, and she disappears. And it turns out Songbird is not just like some helpful netrunner person. She is a very, very, very important figure for the NUSA, for the president, and the president wants her back. Idris Elba's Reed has a history with Songbird. He has like a personal reason to want to find her again. There's another agent named Alex who is also on like a former team they were on and wants to find her as well, so you recruit her. So that's the gist of the story, and I won't really go into details past that, but the bulk of the story is about finding Songbird, like figuring out what the deal is with Songbird, deciding what to do with Songbird by the end of the game. That's like the main crux of it, where Myers, the president, is kind of a secondary figure. Idris Elba's Reed is the main figure and the person you'll be talking to the most. Cannot speak highly enough of his performance here and how he was animated. Cyberpunk does not use like full facial performance capture. I don't think they have to like have Idris record his stuff and then they animate over it. Just stellar work here. Like, Idris Elba's obviously a phenomenal actor, but sometimes when you get actors in games, it's like doesn't quite work and whatever. I think Keanu did a good job as Johnny. I don't think Johnny's my favorite character, but it is very hard not to really appreciate the work Idris Elba has done here as Reed. Whether you trust him, whether you don't trust him, whether you like him, whether you think he's phony, like whatever. He's done a really great job here. And Songbird, I don't know who the voice actress is for Songbird. I cannot find it. Maybe they haven't released it yet. She's very good as well. A very compelling character where, again, you're like, should I trust her? Should I help her? Like, what the hell's going on here? And she becomes a really compelling focus for the story. And I would be remiss if I did not talk about Cherami Leigh, who I have my 3 Vs, and she voices all of them. Without question, she is the best voice actor, and these are the best scripts for a first-person character I've ever seen in a video game, bar none. The only remotely close thing could be like BioShock Infinite or something, but she is leagues beyond all of that. It is very, very difficult to voice a character that is compelling who you cannot see. You can only see V in like photo mode or on motorcycles. Excellent work here. She did amazing work in the base game, and she does, I would argue, even better work here, because there's some really, really hardcore emotional beats in here that she blitzes through with an immense amount of talent. And I'm kind of going through the base points of my review, and then what I view as another character in the game is the music. The score for this game is incredible. It's already released. You can listen to it now. There are some moments where the music just works so perfectly that it makes the scenes hit in a totally different way. You'll probably know these scenes when you see them. You'll feel it, and this is really helps to make some of the most emotionally impactful, like epic moments in the game. The actual missions, I don't want to go too deep into the content of the missions, but they are pretty different from what we've seen before. Some of them get really, really cool. They're not all combat focused. I didn't really talk about this in my review, but there's a lot of parts of missions where It's like kind of secret spy stuff, like attend a fancy party, talk to contacts, and like be undercover. And like, yeah, it's not a lot of shooting, but like there are very tense moments during these parts where if you say the wrong thing, you blow your cover, you get killed. Like, there's a way that may not have worked at all, but I think the way it's set up works extremely well. So in addition to just fun combat stuff, those moments really worked for me too. One of the endings, without getting into specifics, has one of the most badass sequences I've ever seen in this game, by far. And then another ending has the one thing in the game I hated more than anything else, which is a insta-fail stealth segments without context for what that is. Really annoying. It stopped the game dead in its tracks, and I really did not like that aspect of the ending, even if after that the rest of the ending was good. I have seen 3 endings. I think there might be 4, and then there is another ending for the entire game based on you can like thread the needle. It's not after all these endings. You have to kind of go through a specific path to get the final ending. That ending is I can't say, but that left the most significant impression on me. I will go into all the endings later. I'm not going to do it now ahead of release. I won't do it at release. We'll talk about all this later, but the various endings are obviously some of the most impactful moments of the expansion, and I would say more impactful than anything in the base game. So that's kind of missions, just the storyline in general, what you learn about like Reed and Songbird and their team. Johnny has some good stuff about like he's grappling with his own time in the military when he was kind of used by the U.S. government. He's trying to get you not to do that. V getting a new sense of hope that maybe this person can finally fix her relic in a way that's different from the other quest lines. It's all very, very good. It is well voice acted. It is well written. There are also side gigs that Mr. Hands is a big figure that gives you side gigs in this. Some of these are kind of independent from one another, but they're very in depth. A lot of them are not like as super short as some of the other gigs were. There are multiple components to them. Decisions you make will come up later. You get different rewards based on what you do. And Mr. Hands himself is actually a pretty big figure in the main storyline. You'll have to consult with him and ask him for help a few times. So it's not just they like threw in a fixer who calls you, every couple of minutes for a gig. Like they actually integrated him into the story. Muammar Reyes is the other fixer here. He's in charge of all your car missions, where those are pretty basic, but it's mainly a system to show off the vehicle combat stuff they added, where there will be a special car he wants you to steal. It'll flash. You pick up the car. You got to drive it to him. If it's in Dogtown, there's only one gate in and out of Dogtown, so you have to go through that same gate every single time. I think it's for loading. I think that's why they implemented it. You get scanned by the military police, and then you go out. I think it's for loading. And then you drive to him. You either have to fight enemies who will be chasing you, and then you can use the new car combat system, which I guess I can talk a little bit about here. You can shoot out your front window, your back window. You can use pistols or SMGs. It will auto-target, like if you're kind of pointing at a car, it will auto-target. You can just shoot, and it will do damage to the car. You can more precisely aim, and this is what I usually do. You can aim at the driver and try to take out the driver. If motorcycles are chasing you, really easy to headshot those guys. But you can also, what I found the most effective, at least if you're not cyber hacking cars, to just explode them, which is a possibility. I did that on my Netrunner class. You can also make them emergency brake or accelerate crazily. Very fun. You can aim specifically at their tires. You'll get a little punctured thing. They will spin out of control. Sometimes they can still chase you on one tire, but if you get 2, they're just dead. They won't follow you. Blow up one motorcycle tire, and they go whoop, and they are dead. And they won't be chasing you anymore. Later, you will unlock cars with actual guns on them. This system is a little weirder, I think, because like the cars I got with guns and rockets, it's a little hard to aim the rockets to actually blow up the cars you want, and you may blow up other things that get you a wanted level you don't want. The machine guns on the cars I have are just straight ahead, and enemies are almost always attacking you from behind, so you have to like brake and go behind them. So I'm a little more questionable on the twisted metal car weapons, but there's some very cool perks in like the skill tree that have to do with car stuff. There's not a full car tree, but in each attribute section, there's something that has to do with cars. You can hold car exit to slide out of your car and like be actively shooting as you do so, or jump off your motorcycle and start shooting in midair. There are bonuses to car health and car damage. My favorite one is you can activate your Sandevistian Cyberware while in your car, so you can slow time, which allows you to more precisely land your headshots or tire shots. Use that all the time, especially in my assault class, who has the Sandevistian. It works with the Kerzakov or whatever it's called too. So that aspect is very fun. It just, there's not really car chase stuff in the storyline or in the gigs. Like there aren't car missions. The car missions are essentially all tied to these fixer side missions. And like sometimes you don't even fight people. Sometimes you just have to get somewhere fast, or you have to get somewhere without damaging your car, which is less fun. So it's used for that, and it's kind of used for police chases, but it's not really used in the main story. So that is okay. The police stuff is good. It's GTA police, essentially. You know, they will chase you, they will set up roadblocks, they will search for you and find you. At 5 stars, they will send in max tack, which is no joke. And then you hide from them, escape your wanted level. It's just, it's not like anything nuts compared to police systems we've seen, but it is the police system the game should have had at the beginning and did not. The real cool stuff they added is all the Update 2.0 stuff. Well, I know I've talked about this before. This is easily, you know, the most transformative part of the game. Like Phantom Liberty has a great storyline, great acting, all that stuff. But when you're playing the game, this is how, you know, it transforms the actual process of combat and whatever. Part of the reason I have my 3 characters is so I can do 3 different builds. You can respec into essentially any build from the start. Like if you're not starting over completely, you can respec all your attribute points once, which they've never let you do before. But they've changed a lot of the trees around, so you may have a bunch of points in something you don't need anymore. Like, the cool tree used to have Cold-Blooded, which was a perk that, like, stacked damage and all this stuff, and pretty much no matter what build you're using. That is not there anymore. That cool is now stealth and throwing blades and stuff like that. Well, no. I don't know. It's mostly stealth stuff. So I had to take all my points out of cool and put them into something else. So it did change a lot of my builds to a certain extent, but it opened up a lot of possibilities. So like, well, some of my old builds were a little dead and I had to like rethink them. The changes that I ended up making were very fun. My former Netrunner build, which was so passive to the point of being boring. Now I was missing like active combat quick hacks with all these smart weapons, because smart weapons are in the intelligence tree, and they put in a lot more synergy between smart weapons and quick hack stuff. I also put points into like health and regen and stuff because I was more actively in combat. My blade build is crazy. They did a lot of stuff with melee in this update. Every kind of melee weapon has at least a couple of finishers now. Your samurai sword, you're dropping people to their knees, cutting their heads off. There's axes, you plant it in their head. Knives, you plant it in their neck. And then they did a bunch of stuff with mantis blades, which there's like, at least in the relic tree, most of the upgrades are for the fist weapons, because I think they really want all of your builds to use at least one of the fist weapons, because that is like the most cyberpunk aspect of this that other games do not have. So mantis blades are crazy, like super high dismemberment chance, crazy finishers. There's a upgrade where you can, if you dismember an enemy or finish an enemy, the next enemy you can just like leap across the map to. It's very fun. And the blade build is crazy. Just for fun, since I had so many skill points, I started also putting skill points into the throwing blade tree. You can throw axes, you can throw knives. Those do huge damage. You can use them in the stealth build because they're silent, but you can also use them in active combat. So if I don't want to run across the map and slice someone with my sword, I can whip out my throwing knife and throw them and hit them in the head. Also, fun blade things. I really love what they did with bullet deflection, where you guard and you don't just prevent damage, and upgrade lets you aim bullets back at enemies like you're using a lightsaber and there's blaster bolts coming at you, so you can like headshot enemies with their own bullets. So badass. And then we got to my assault class. This is the one I haven't finished playing on, but I'm now kind of just farming gear and equipment because, like, I don't know if I need to beat the story a third time. I'm just sort of messing around in Dogtown. There are things you can farm. All of the car missions will give you some upgrades there, but the main thing you farm is there's airdrops all over Dogtown where you'll hear this loud noise. A package drops from the sky and a bunch of orange smoke comes up. You will go there, and almost always there will be a large cluster of bad guys there, either guarding it or fighting each other over it. Go and kill all them, jack into the thing, solve a little cyber puzzle, and then get a bunch of good loot, including iconic weapons. That is kind of what you farm experience, you farm weapons that way. It's, there's a limit to the usefulness of that, but it's very fun, and it's more than the base game had in terms of like repeatable activities to do. So my assault class, I have an 80% slow time Sandovistian, where you get 20% extended duration on kill. I have a lot of grenade upgrades because there's like a whole grenade health item tree now. So I'm throwing out fire grenades. I have flaming gorilla fists, and I have a fire submachine gun that lights people on fire. And then I also have my shotgun and LMG. The shotgun and LMG tree is now heavily reliant on something called obliteration, which it's the closest thing you can imagine is the Fallout Bloody Mess perk, where it just explodes an enemy completely, more or less. They're just a torso. When that happens, you have like a chance to just do that on hit. And then if you do, you get a bunch of bonuses. You get health back, you get reload speed, like whatever. So it has combat implications other than just looking cool. It's a very fun class. I'm very tanky. All classes now have like a dash move that just takes a couple upgrades to unlock. Air dash, side dash, it makes combat way more active on essentially any build you do. I think there may have been like some amount of that before, but it's a lot better now. You can there's air mobility where you can navigate in the air a little bit, and then there's things that give you bonuses for slowing time in the air. There's one perk that can make you hover in the air when time is slowed, and shoot down that way and get bonuses from that. There's a lot of new cyberware. They've changed the whole cyberware system where there's a limit in how much cyberware you can slot now, which sounds bad, but it's actually kind of a cool system because you have to pick and choose what cyberware you're using, where you want to emphasize stuff. So there's normal cyberware where okay, there's, this upgrade gives me 12% armor and it costs 8 cyberware power. But there's one that gives 36% armor, but that costs 40 cyberware power. So you are limiting your ability to use other stuff at the cost of okay, I really want to focus on armor, I really want to focus on quick hacks, I really want to focus on damage. Over time, you can upgrade your cyberware to be super max, and you can have a bunch of iconic high-level cyberware stuff, but that takes time. And even in all this play, I'm still only 2/3 of the way up. There is one ability where it lets you overclock your cyberware capacity by, I think, 40 or 50 power. As high as you go, that will cut your health. So I think I'm losing 100 health out of 500, which is a lot. But it gives you the chance to both put in more cyberware, and there's a 5% chance you'll go Cyber Psycho, which gives you a ton more damage and other bonuses and move speed. And you will hear laughter echoing in your head as your screen turns red for a period of time. The icon for this is David from Edge Runners. Very cool. So there's fun stuff like that in there. So the cyberware system is good. It works really well in conjunction with the new skill system, and then all of those work with new weapons they have. There are a ton of iconic weapons now. Each of these iconic weapons have really unique abilities to them. I won't go into all of them here, but even some of the main shotgun I'm using is one that they added over the past year as a special weapon, because it has a super high dismemberment chance, so it's great. But you will find a lot of these iconic weapons in all weapon classes, and they will make a bunch of very fun, very diverse builds. All of this stuff combines to be the best feeling the game has been since launch. I always thought Cyberpunk combat was actually one of its strengths. I thought it was pretty fun, especially once they started changing things around a little bit and removing some of the bad perks and buffing some of the other perks. I thought it was pretty good, but it is even better now for sure, and it slots in perfectly with Phantom Liberty, which is a really, really good expansion from a story perspective, missions perspective, and then putting you in Dogtown, this really dense, walled off zone with a lot of combat. You can just endlessly fight these private militia troops. You can get all these airdrops. Dogtown is very small, but it's very well populated. You go inside a ton of the buildings for missions. Most of the big ones you see, you will be inside at some point. there's not that much blank space, and if it is, there's like something secret hidden there, or that's where an airdrop will be. It is very much smaller than Night City, like way smaller, but it's very focused in what it does. And like going back into Night City after being in Dogtown, you're sort of just like, where is everything? Like there's so much just empty space where it's just streets and closed storefronts and things, which may look cool, but there's not really anything going on there. And like then you go back to Dogtown, you're like, oh geez, like I get it, like I know, like I understand why this is this small, because there's a lot to do in here. So without question, would recommend playing not just Phantom Liberty but all of Cyberpunk. The perfect way to play this now is from the start. The 2.0 update launches tomorrow. I'm going to write an article about this, but you can start playing tomorrow. I probably would start playing tomorrow, because I don't know at what point in the story you get to Phantom Liberty unlocking, but it's going to be a while. And even if you do everything else in the game, there's still nothing wrong with doing Phantom Liberty as the last thing, because that's what I did on 3 characters. I've beaten every other mission, and I'm at like find Hanako at Embers, the point of no return, and I started Phantom Liberty from there. Felt great. That was actually probably the best way to do it, honestly. And then if you do find the last ending, if you do go down that path, you will be able to play it immediately after the main story ends, as opposed to like going back to the main game, doing Hanako at Ember. Like it transitions into it, and like we'll talk about that later. But I would start playing tomorrow if you're planning to, especially if you're planning to start making a new character. For an existing character, you can log in tomorrow and start, planning your build, because you can redo all your skill points and attributes now already. You will still have your existing weapons. Don't forget that clothing is now purely cosmetic, and if you were a clothing collector, you can delete all of your clothing, which will save you a couple £100 of inventory space, and all of those clothes will now be in your wardrobe, because this is essentially just transmog now, because all armor has been moved to Cyberware. Really cool new clothes in this. Like, obviously no gameplay components here, but you'll be seeing screenshots and stuff I'm sharing. The only footage I've been allowed to show over the course of this video review is B-roll from CDPR itself. I can't show captured footage until the actual game launches. I can show my own screenshots. I don't know. I'm assuming this is because they don't want like any story spoiler content out there, but they've shown a lot already. So I don't know. I'll just wait. But yeah, so obviously this is a super double thumbs up. Really, really love this expansion. I have been something of, a Cyberpunk apologist for the last year and a half now. Like, no, I promise, it's really good. So maybe I'm more predisposed to like this than most people. I guess that's my recent pro-Cyberpunk bias coming in, but like I genuinely think this is incredible. One of the best things I've seen from CDPR, and I get why they were so kind of excited to share it and see how people received it. So I will have plenty more to say about this, tips, like whatever. I did a lot of this post probably a little early, so I might circle back around to them. But yeah, go play it. It's worth picking up. The base game is worth buying for whatever price it is now, and if you like it, buy Phantom Liberty later. I don't know what the bundle is now, but yeah. So once you start playing 2.0 tomorrow, let me know what you think, and we can all talk about the actual expansion when it launches in a week here. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.